Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about how can data drive green transition. As climate concerns become ever more pressing, have you ever stopped to think about whether all your favorite brands are helping or harming the planet? Please. Yeah, and whether or do you know when you buy make your purchase, do you know the carbon footprint of the product, or considering electric vehicles, do you know whether they are actually really as low carbon as we think? Well, if you want answers to these questions, then welcome to the Blue Map. That's exactly what we're trying to do since 2006. Since 2006, and what we have over the years witnessed severe pollution and environmental challenges. As you can see on this chart, we're talking about hundreds of millions. They have been lifted out of poverty, but hundreds of millions have been exposed to severe air, water, and soil pollution. And from this map, you can see vividly the impact of it. When the rivers and lakes color-coded based on their level of pollution. And you can see so many of them at that time running black and revealing the profound impact, not just on the ecosystem, but also on local communities. And of course, much of this is triggered by the colossal impact of the global supply chain. And on the air pollution side, in this city, in our city, Beijing, and many other densely populated cities, they have been troubled by air pollution for many years. The thick smog got so bad, and the so-called air apocalypse have turned into a watershed moment more than 10 years ago, when the government, respond to the public demand for clean air, and by monitoring PM 2.5 and mandating for the first time the real-time disclosure of online monitoring data, first time in the world. And in response, we developed and launched the Blue Map app, and helping to empower the citizens to access all this monitoring data every single hour. Because it is location-based, so all our users can easily understand which one in the neighborhood is violating the standards. And the transparency have triggered the immense public pressure, and then motivating large number, thousands upon thousands of some of the largest coal power, iron, steel, cement, and chemical companies to openly address their violations, and for the first time, make very deep cut of their emission. So what we witness is a historic progress made in China's environmental transparency. The first year, we managed to compile only less than 2,000 records. But last year, it topped 3.4 million records of violations. And the expansion of data infrastructure allow an NGO like ours to track the performance of 20 million corporations. And we turned that into a supply chain management tool. And the CITI index we used to assess the performance of all those brands that we talked about. And we're happy to see from the IT industry and to the textile industry, one by one, the brands started integrating the data into their sourcing standards. And they motivate tens of thousands of their suppliers to openly address the problem. And sometimes not just cut their current emission. Some of them started addressing the legacy problem. Like in this chart photo, you can see how a canal in the Yangtze River Delta being dredged to remove the heavy metals laced at the bottom. And by a supplier that has helping manufacture all these gadgets that we use day in, day out. And through all these efforts, today, by now, all the green supply chain, based on the public demand, have actually motivated tens of thousands to be on our blue eco chain, meaning whenever there's a new problem happen, they got an immediate push notification, which will trigger a follow-up action within the limited time frame. And our efforts, humble efforts, is part of the national cleanup action plan, which lead to a massive reduction of the emission. China's sulfur dioxide emission, a major air pollutant, plummeted from 20 million tons to 2.4 million in 10 years of time. And consequently, the PM 2.5, the fine particles concentration, dropped by 50%, more than 50% across the major regions. And in this city, in Beijing, it declined from nearly 90 micrograms to 30. And in the surrounding cities, some of them see their annual average drop by more than 100 micrograms. 100. The WHO standards now drop to 5. 5, that's the health standards. It means hundreds of millions are no longer exposed to that level of severe air pollution. But it also means 30 is still 5 times the global average, and 5 times higher. So we need to do more, a long way to go. But when more blue sky is coming back, can we continue to motivate people? That's the challenge. And in the meantime, the increase of the carbon dioxide also means unprecedented stress put on the global climate. And we see extreme weather events, including all these heat waves, droughts, flooding, and wildfire, occur far more frequently globally. And out of the 9 global planetary boundaries, 7 have been breached, pushing the global water cycle to the brink and causing a catastrophic 73% decline in the global wildlife population. And on the plastic side, all this microplastic, invisible plastics is exacerbating the triple planetary crisis. So this is our brave new now reality. How could we speed up the transition with the right scale? We believe that we need to tap into the similar data-driven solutions as we clean our air and water. So the same year as China announced the carbon peak and neutrality index, we have developed and launched the Blue Map for Zero Carbon and started providing access to the citizens on the not just national level emission, but provincial and city level emission, mapping the amazing growth of China's renewable energy, like this quarterly solar map installation capacity, and also developing and launched a carbon peak and neutrality index to assess the performance of provinces and cities so as to create accountability. We also want to drive down this, push the disclosure to the corporate level, which is very important. 68% of the emissions coming from the industry. But we're happy to see through the implementation of all this mandatory and voluntary mechanism of disclosure, we can compile billions of tons of corporate carbon emission by now. And based on the data, develop another set of index to help assess again those brands that you consume day in, day out. Through this process, we also identify the gaps of the small and medium-sized companies, the capacity gaps in measuring and disclosure. So in response, we developed with our partners a digital accounting platform. And last year, the small and medium-sized suppliers used this to measure and disclose 66 million tons of embedded carbon, of carbon emission. And the Blue Map also become an enabler to the green finance. We help the banks to track the performance of 3 million corporations who want to borrow money last year and help them to measure their carbon footprint of the portfolios. But still, the most important thing, we still need to re-engage with the consumers, with the individual. So to achieve that, we joined the efforts to build the product emission factors database with our partners and working with very capable third-party agencies and institutions from Europe and from China, like CPP, and to compile the carbon footprint catalog. And to help make it even more user-friendly for all of you to check the carbon footprint, we made an extension of the Blue Map into something called Product Carbon Scan. It is incredibly simple. You just take a photo and upload to the Blue Map, and then the AI will help identify the subject, and then it will help you unlock the embedded carbon footprint. And it works particularly well with all these cars, including EVs. And out of curiosity or simply for fun, we have our users taking so many snapshots in the streets. Last year, 280,000 of them. And they help unlock more than 10 million tons of embedded carbon of all these cars, and then which can be distributed to 700 different models of vehicles and allow us to use that to engage with 80 different auto brands. So what's our finding? First, switching to electric vehicle, it works. It actually helps because it helps to decarbonize, cut the emission from the operating phase. But, it's an important but, it's not sufficient because the production phase remain to be carbon intensive. And I'm not sure whether you noticed that our cars, including the EVs, they're getting bigger and heavier. So it means that in the not too near future, not too distant future, the material production, the material carbon footprint will account for a much higher share in all these cars, including EVs. So what shall we do? I think we need to make our demand for better product, but we also need to express our hope that the cars, including EVs, decarbonize the upstream steel manufacturing, for example, which is one of the largest components of carbon footprint. But when we engage with the brands, many would tell us that it will add extra cost, and no one wants to pay for that. So what's the extra cost? It's 1%. And if I tell you that 1% actually put 90% of China's green steel manufacturing capacity on idle, so should we try to find a way to share that 1% of green premium? There are many who argue that it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to try to have individuals to join the fight to protect our public environment. But our Blue Map users, I'm proud to say, defy this assumption, and many of them, they have taken so many millions upon millions of photos and upload and data as well to help safeguard the blue sky and clean water and track the biodiversity change and also monitor the garbage sorting in every neighborhood and plastic reduction. And most recently, some of our users, they probably share the behavior change when they're traveling. And this finally have triggered some of the largest hotel chains to begin phasing out the unnecessary single-use plastic items. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our brave, this is the moment. We're at the crossroad, navigating through this very complex and fragmented global environment and climate governance, or balancing economic development with environmental protection is not easy. And now, more than any other time in the past, the government, the policymakers and the corporations, they need a clear signal from the public. They need consumers to value and actively demand green transition. So at this brief now moment, let's make a green choice. Let's make our voice heard. I hope through this talk you can see, together we can use data to make this world a greener and better place for the ecosystem, for every one of us, and for you, the young generation. Thank you.